Fine.
You're doing fine, and Jeff Zwart's in the house. Let's push the button, Mrs.
Great.
Ryan. Excited today.
Yeah. Me too. Wow.
Wow is right. The name is nice. The date is nice. 4/4. What's happening, Mrs. Ryan?
I've had a busy, emotional morning.
What?
That's in a good way. Emotions can be good. I'm going to get to it.
Oh, okay.
It's just, I feel like immensely better.
Okay.
But like wonky as hell, but whatever.
All right.
So there, that's today.
Oh, I'm sorry you're wonky as hell. You don't seem it. You're walking around very excited, very happy.
We
are very excited and happy. Let's talk about this. Welcome back, everybody. Today is Thursday, April 4th, 2019, and our guest today is Mr. Jeff Zwart. And Mrs. Ryan and I are very excited about that. No surprise. I don't want to waste too much time talking about it because I'd rather talk to him if that's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a bunch of things to go through. Actually, only a couple things to go through, but they're both videos to watch. Let's see. I'm going to give you the option. Would you like to check in with the Backstage Pass first or our TBT video, because it is TBT?
Backstage Pass, please.
Oh, Backstage Pass first. I like the way you're doing it. Let's reorganize here. All right, beautiful. Let us check in now with Ray Shaffer and a special guest.
Hi, Ray.
Mm-hmm. I know, it's a good one, too. Let's see. Ray Shaffer, special guest, Backstage Pass. Here we go. Roll it out.
Good evening, Jay and Nicole from the Heritage Gallery here at the Porsche Experience Center Atlanta. We've got a very special guest stopping by to see me on his way through town. So I wanted to say hello to you. So let's go upstairs and see who it is.
Hey Jay and Nicole, we're coming to you from
the Heritage Center here at the Porsche Experience Center Atlanta. As I said earlier, we have a special guest and he wanted to say a few words to you, so here we are. What do you think of the exhibit?
It's absolutely amazing. You know, every time Ray has a new display that comes into the Heritage Gallery, I make it a note to pick up an Atlanta trip so I can kind of check out what's new, what's going on, not have to sit in a hotel room, still get paid to do cool stuff. So I came today to check out the Brumos exhibit, and it's completely just blown me away. And it's not even just Brumos cars. He's got an RSK behind me. He's got the Ingram Collection, America Roadster back there. It's Disneyland for car guys, I always say, but it never ceases to amaze me. The amazing cars you can put together. My hat's off to you. Seriously.
It's our wonderful course. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that's very kind of you. It's exciting to share with people who appreciate it, like
and I definitely do.
And like you guys at home, I guess we should say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for that opportunity, and thank you for our friends in the community, so that we can share this with the rest of the community. It takes collectors, because I should point out that all these cars are privately owned, and it's those wonderful collectors in the community, like the Brumos Collection, the Sprecher Collection, and among others, that have shared their cars with us. So yeah, hats off to them. Thanks so much.
That's really cool that they're not just locked away in a warehouse collecting dust somewhere.
Totally.
These are cars that you can come, you can go eat at the restaurant or do some sim time, and then you're guaranteed access into the gallery to check out the cars that are here on display, and it's just priceless stuff you're not going to see anywhere else.
So here we are at the end of March. It's not quite May yet. Are we going to see you out on the West Coast for Luft 6?
Yes, I will be there. I'm even wearing my Luft shirt. I'm ready. I can't wait. Now we just need a venue, right?
As this is being taped, we still do not know where it's going to happen. So we're just excited to find out, as you are all as well.
Can't wait. I'll be there.
All right.
I'll see you guys there.
We'll see you guys there right soon. So till then, have a great show, Jay and Nicole. See you soon.
It'll be fun to see those guys soon.
All I know is someone is improving their filmmaking skills there.
Yeah.
You see all those cuts and B-roll, and they did a little interview. How cool was that?
So cool.
All right, so we should talk about the guy on the right. The guy on screen right was Tori Alonso. He's a producer on this show. He books talent on this show, and he's a huge contributor in the community. VDubber for life. If you don't know him, give him a follow. And then also the guy on the left, everybody knows, Ray Shaffer. Here's the follow copy for Ray Shaffer. If not already, please consider following Ray Shaffer for your backstage pass to Porsche Classic, brand heritage, and travel-related material. That's ray.shaffer. S-H-A. F-F-E. Forgive the M code at the end.
Oh, man.
That's awesome. So good. All right, Mrs. Ryan, TBT.
Yeah.
TBT.
Let's
It's
do
kind of
it.
cool. I can't wait till they're out here for Luftgekuhlt.
I
like
know,
every time
it's
if
in
someone
May,
talks about
right?
it, and our guest today and a whole bit having meetings about it, it's pretty exciting. All right, TBT. Oh, you know what? Before we go to TBT, I just have back to the studio. One thing over here. I want to very quickly check in behind the orange curtain.
Yes.
Just to say, Happy birthday! It's 4/4. It's Paul Kennel. It's officially Paul Kennel Day, according to that. That's the hashtag. Happy birthday to Paul Kennel from the Auto Kramers down there in Orange County behind the orange curtain.
Happy birthday.
And the Ed. Hello to the Ed.
Hi to everyone.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. I didn't know. I saw it on Facebook yesterday. Someone was like, and tomorrow's your birthday. And I was like, love.
I know. We were texting this morning. He's the best. He gave me a question for Zwart. All right. Now let's check in. TBT.
Yeah.
I don't remember when this is, but I'm sure the video will tell you. I think it's a Breakfast Club, and it's going to happen right now. Roll it out.
Naked Tortuga. I'm going to take this for a drive in a couple minutes. Fun. Hi, Bob.
Started as the 86. Long time ago.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Alex's husband.
Thanks, Alex's husband.
Thanks for loaning us the photographer.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah, thanks for breaking her down and talking her into all this.
You just can't stop today, can you?
What?
Breaking her down and stuff. Stop that.
Everybody touch the baby. I love the baby.
Neat.
Now, I know you weren't there in that one. I chose it for two reasons. It was because it was Otto Kennel's birthday, and also because of the 111. Obviously, there on the between the two, it just seemed like it made sense. I do want to mention also, though, that the road closed there. The road wasn't closed until we closed it. That was Ilko's idea. The signs were there.
I thought that was weird.
So it was one of those, yeah, we pulled the cars right in the middle of the road and everything. It was great, though. Great photos from that day.
Great video. Yeah, the one of all the cars going by is pretty cool.
Oh, you're awesome. Thanks, Mrs. Ryan. So that was fun. Trip down memory lane. Now I'd like to check in and see what's happening today and ask the question that's on everyone's mind.
Dun, 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 dun.
What's going on, Mrs. Ryan? Dun, 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 dun.
I was going through a bunch of stuff today, like I do. And on Facebook, one of my friends, Daniel Kellison, shared a video from... he's a producer, right? You used to work with him.
He produced this show when this stuff was occurring. But I also worked with him on Ellen. Not Ellen. That's not true. That's somebody else.
Rosie.
Rosie. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So he shared a video that was, I think, from last month of like 1995, and it was this set, and it was with the guy that flipped over the chair. What's his name?
I was just going to say this, Daniel, Chris Farley.
Yeah.
But I love in that clip, when he does the flipping over, he goes, "Daniel told me to do it."
Yeah, and so that
obviously we know who that is.
And that's what Daniel said in the thing. He's like, this was Chris's thing. He always, and every time he was on the show, he would always make some kind of shout out. So I'm going to do my own shout out and let everyone, this is how small worlds are in this late night world specifically. So in that video, I didn't remember all of it. The guy that gets carried out to the dumpster, or whatever. The dumpster is the husband of a girl I went to college with and worked at a coffee shop with.
There's a bit, gosh, I wish I had that bit loaded. Tell me next time. You know what? Actually, I'll find it and I'll play it. We'll play it right now. Check it out.
Okay.
Old friend Chris Farley. Oh my God! Yeah, how you doing, buddy? Here, let me help you with that. You busted your microphone.
Dave, do you ever have shooting pains in your arm and chest? Is that all right?
Let me fix you right up, son.
Oh, Dave.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe you should cut back on the candy.
Yeah. The holidays were brutal.
I've done this show an awful long time. That right there, sir, enjoy this, was the finest entrance a guest has ever made. Congratulations on the movie. You and David Spade, you got the #1 film in the country last week at the big debut week. It was a box office blockbuster.
Yeah, I was pretty excited about that.
You let me know when you're ready to talk.
I should have done some more stretching back there.
Yeah.
See what I can do? I've been stretching lately, Dave.
Yeah, oh, that's...
Look at that.
Oh, God, for a second.
Dave, I'm having trouble.
All right.
Dave, I can't get up.
I know. You busted, Chris, you busted the set. Look at this.
Sorry,
Look at this. He actually moves the thing.
I'm sorry.
Here, there, thank you. God.
I'm sorry. Daniel told me to do that.
That's some power.
And we're back. It's the only editing we'll ever have to do.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, anyway, this is how my life works. I have so many roundabout connections to this set and late night. This is my love letter. The guy at the beginning of that video is the husband of a friend of mine from college, but also
the guy who just went in the dumpster a second ago.
Yes, but he's also the executive producer of Forgetting Sarah Marshall. And he's the guy that I was in Hawaii with the first time I ever went. And he was like a safe space in a crazy
There's
time.
a picture right behind you in that shot of Sarah Marshall right there.
Yeah,
when
and
you
he
worked
was
on it.
one of the EPs. And he won an Oscar for the recent Spider-Man U-verse, whatever.
What a crazy
with
world.
two guys. One of the guys is the guy that played Hangman to get my phone number in 1998.
Hangman?
Yeah, it was all
Wheel of
wrong,
Fortune?
but like
Yeah.
this is flirting in the 80s with nerds, or 90s. And like, so it all comes back to like, he knows that guy that I met at a comedy club, and I was out with at one of their houses when I think we were all there together when one of the guys we were with got the call that he was on SNL.
Oh, wow.
And then, so now like.
As a cast member?
Yeah.
Anybody we know?
Will Forte.
You're kidding.
No,
How
that's
cool.
what I
remember when he got the show. I mean, I remember when he, showed up on the show. That's so cool.
We were at dinner together in Santa Monica at their house. They all lived together. So, like, my history is not as specific as yours, but it's roundabout, and it's just how my life is. So I wanted to shout out to Kellison and keep the tradition going, because we have the set.
And we're trying to, you're working to get Kellison here as a guest as well, right?
Yeah, I'm going to send this link to his assistant who I've been dealing with. And,
oh, cool. Very cool.
So hi to everybody, and I go way back with everybody.
I don't know if he'll ever do it. I don't expect him to, because he's not really the in front of the camera guy. He's the genius behind this, anything professional like this that you see. But I'll tell you what, if he does come, I'm going to really enjoy that conversation.
Yeah, it'll be so good to see.
I just want to pick his brain about all the stuff, and it's not the stuff that anybody else cares about.
I know, totally. And I shouldn't know him, but I know his wife who works at Kimmel. Like, my history goes so.
His wife works at Kimmel?
Yes.
Oh, so they're all still. Yeah, so they're all. It's all. Yeah.
It's all
what's
there.
He working on now? He did the Norm
He's
show.
At Jash, and they're producing a show. I think with Sarah Silverman.
Oh wow, that's right.
They're in pre-pro right now. That's why it's been so hard to get him on the show.
He still works on Kimmel too, though, in some way. I think. Anyway, whatever. That's very cool.
Whatever. So my roundabout history, that was that. So shout out to Daniel and Rodney. Okay, there's not much of a story to this, but my love for Elon Musk continues.
Oh boy.
Sheryl Crow went on Twitter because her Tesla, the screen went black, and she was like, uh-oh, what do I do? So she went on Twitter. And
did everyone say have fun till the sun comes up and all that?
Probably. I didn't look. I just read this article because Elon responded and was like, here's what you do. Sorry for the inconvenience. We're going to change the software. Like, it's a problem.
I'm assuming this is a reboot type thing. It was probably a simple solve.
No, it was like settings. It was a setting issue that he was on auto that like is an automatic setting in the thing. Anyway, he took responsibility. He was like, I'm going to change the software. That's awesome. Crazy. So love to everyone there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good for Sheryl Crow. I mean, this is how you get things done these days. Apparently, you put things on blast on social media, and then change happens. It's wild. It's kind of wild. I
love it. It's super super cool. Okay, I'll do a virus thing another day because it's interesting. But
okay.
And then there's positives
editing as we go.
Here we go. Yeah, I'm learning. My brain's growing back. That's what this.
I know
the
that.
First
I know that to
story,
be true. I tell everybody that.
I didn't remember all the pieces to that first like tie around until like I saw Daniel's video this morning. I was like, oh, our set. Oh, anyway, that's how
the
it
synapses are firing with Mrs. Ryan.
Getting back together. Anyway, there's positives to sugar. They're finding out
positives.
Yeah.
Okay.
it helps your lung respiratory system. Now,
stimulant, right? So that makes sense. Like
yes,
coffee would.
Yes and no, because it also creates allergens and inflammation in some cases. So you have to be really cautious.
That's my point. I wouldn't do it. I'd go for the other thing.
Okay.
Sorry. You go ahead.
You're jumping on all of my stuff.
I'm
but,
sorry. You're exactly right.
The negatives of sugar is that it causes inflammation. There's a reason inflammation it creates, though, in your body, and it's usually to, like, get infections away. So the studies were, like, inhaling sugar to, like, block receptors and, like, do stuff.
Inhaling like powdered sugar, like cocaine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a reference to snorting it.
That's what I'm saying.
It sounded like cocaine.
Oh, my God.
They're playing with different ways because they're finding that there are positives to things that were seen only as negative. So it's like, I found this out.
Everything is everything. There's nothing in this world that's black and white.
Everything's everything. But, like, I got crazy looks when I was like, I just want to sit and eat Nutella with a spoon. I dealt with it differently. I didn't inhale sugar, but I ate it. And then
I believe your body that used to be used to I don't know how to say any of this politely. You used to be bigger. Your body was used to it. Now you're not, and I think sometimes your body just needs calories. So if that's a jar of Nutella one night, I don't think it's going to kill you.
Totally, but sometimes I've noticed when my body craves certain things, and it's typically
I think
when
you should listen to that, and that's what you do, and you don't judge yourself, and I feel like that's where the key is.
Totally. But I like understanding it too, because I get bored as hell sometimes when I'm medicating constantly, and I just have to sit there. So my mind wanders and I think about stuff because I'm not dumb. So anyway, the Nutella that I eat gets into my system and like wards off things a different way. It works differently than if I were to snort it, but I like it.
Okay.
I had a different. I was going somewhere else, but I forget.
I'm sorry. Did I?
Yeah. Anyway, that guy that you worked with, that Stephen Curry guy.
Steph Curry, the basketball player.
Yeah. Anyway, he's partnering with ABC. His motto for his company, he started a couple years ago. It is
Stephen Curry. You're right. Yeah, I got it. Okay.
Faith, family, and sports. So he's partner, which I think is a super rad motto to have in this business.
I not only worked with him, I worked with his brother a couple of days apart, and we did a commercial with both of the brothers, and they were in different cities, and we had to put them in the same room. It was a whole really complicated thing. But the point for this is that both brothers were incredibly similar. Now, they're both professional NBA players, but one is like a superstar and one's just like famous. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know sports, so forgive me if I'm saying the wrong things. But here's two guys. One was like wicked crazy famous, and one's just pretty famous. And my point is, they were the same. Their upbringing was the same. They both were just down to earth young men who did their work and were incredibly grateful to be successful. To me, that is the upbringing and everything else. I think the guys are really good. Like, you know what I mean? I think they come from a good place, good family, good upbringing. If this is the future for them, I feel like everything is a match, like a perfect match.
That motto?
Yeah. If this is the name, you said it's the name of what's the?
It's the motto of his production company, which is something that starts with a U. It's not the name. It's the motto of it's his. But
again, that's coming from him. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they're partnering. The company is partnering with ABC to make a mini golf challenge.
For a show?
Yeah. Because
that's cool.
His thing is like
against him. Or just to get
it's a competition show. I don't know.
He's producing it like LeBron, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but Rob Riggle's commentating it. And I love Rob Riggle.
Funny, yeah.
He's hilarious. But the thing that I read was really cool. Like, his reason for creating was like, let's get back to basics. Like, everyone has a mini golf story from when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And mine that I remember all the time, that I'm just going to kick the ball rolling and say I cheated on the scoring on a date.
Of course you did.
Because of course I did. I was like that early.
It was all about winning.
It was all about being attractive, which at the time involved winning, but I wasn't attractive by cheating, and I got called out.
You're awesome.
So whatever. But I'm owning it.
All right, Mrs.
That's
Ryan.
what's going on.
That's been What's Going On. That's so awesome. You're the best. I love that you... all right, here's the backstory. We have to get Zwart in here, but the backstory on that was she had her whole card out, and it looked like the card used to be, which was there was barely any light blue left because it was all pen. And I was like, so you went back to writing everything, huh? And she's like, yeah, I went back to it. I was like, so after the compliments and you feeling good yesterday and everything, you decided to go back to what wasn't working as well? She goes, I'll redo it.
I did.
I think you did great, and I'm so proud of you across the board. I hope you know that I'm not saying this for TV. I mean it in every way.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, good. I love you so much, Mrs. Ryan. Let us take a quick break. We're going to get Jeff Zwart in here to talk about all of the things, everything on my card. We've got some questions from you at home, and plus it's Jeff Zwart, so we're just going to talk about it. He's going to be sitting in that chair right there. When we come back, more to come right after this. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are back. Hello, Mrs. Ryan. Hello, Jeff Zwart. How the heck are you?
Very good. Good to be here, finally.
We're very excited to have you here.
You made it.
Now, now you'll see what you were talking about.
Okay.
We're going to switch the hand.
That's it. That's the culprit up there.
Exactly. We need a bigger space. I think a bigger space will do.
That was so funny. What's that shot with your hand in it?
So great. So
great. You know, all I do is look at film going, you know, what it's usually my own critiquing it, so it's good.
Well, you said that you came and did the show because the set caught your attention.
Yeah, it's good. And I think the first one I watched was the one about the whole microphone thing.
So you do know the story.
Yeah. So
I was curious about
kind of
that.
Fessing up, what all sleight of hand kind of thing.
It's our deal.
And I was thinking whether the statute of limitations was up or, kind of that sort of thing. And I thought, he's bold. He's bold.
It was, it was one of those, just had a skeleton in the closet all those years that even I had forgotten about. You know what I mean? And it was a big one.
Done it.
Huge. I feel complete in the weirdest way. Are you kidding? I finally told my parents what I did.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Well, thank you very much for being here. It means a lot to us.
Oh, well, thanks to you guys, so for sure.
I've been looking forward to the conversation simply because I salute your brain so much and your eye and your demeanor in general.
Oh, thank you.
After spending a couple hours with you at your place the other day, Mrs. Ryan came back on the show and said, "Well, I hope you're not offended, but I have a new man crush on you."
I will take it from wherever it comes from. It's all good.
There's tons of stuff here. I don't even know where to start. I don't want to do the whole... you've seen our show, so it's not an interview thing, and I don't want to do the whole, like, let's start off when you were a kid and the whole bit. It'll be too long. There's so much stuff. But I do want to know what kind of kid you were when you were palling around with our Tuesday guest, Freeman Thomas, when you guys were children growing up in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a total surprise to me the other day.
Yeah, I think, it was, I lived in a lot of different places growing up, and that was probably the house that I lived the longest in. So it was kind of the first time I could really call something home, because I think I lived in 9 houses. Oh, wow. I went to a different school every year till junior in high school, I think, because it wasn't always moving, but you were in a area that was growing, so there'd be open up a new school closer to you, and you'd be there, and that kind of thing. And I traveled around, obviously, with my parents, and we finally settled into that Orange County side of things. And I was an only child, and so you were obviously really close to your parents, and you generally found one friend you were close to, in each place, because you knew that it was kind of, you're going to move on, and you're always kind of a little bit of the outsider too. You get into the schools and they already have their clique and their everything going on. So, but in the time of Freeman, it was kind of funny because it was first time in your life where you kind of got a lot of mobility yourself, which was a bicycle.
Sure.
And
the first taste of freedom.
Yeah. And I had a paper route, so there was a routine to that. Every afternoon, folding the papers and putting them in the bags on your bike, and riding around the neighborhood throwing papers and
porches.
stuff. Yeah. And then we lived in a condominium compound, or condominium area, and so everything was really close together. And I think even Freeman mentioned it, all the condominiums were linked by alleys, and on the alleys were all the garages, so the good stuff was all on the alley. So you just ride up and down the alleys and whose door was open and what was parked in there. So you very quickly identified which neighbors had good stuff.
Sure.
And that good stuff was always a moving target based on what you'd seen in Road and Track magazine or whatever.
That's so funny.
So it just would constantly change. But there were those few neighbors that just had some sort of cool car, and it really, because of the paper route, kind of created a routine where you were delivering at the same time every day. You also had this other routine where when people would come home, and so it really was, you really were kind of aware, well, this 67 911S is going to come down over to that alley, and we're going to go, we're going to try to be around just to hear it and see it drive by and things like that. So, and Freeman didn't have a paper route, but he kind of followed along and did things. And, when you're...
He mentioned he was a little bit younger, so a year younger at that point's a big deal.
Or 2 years younger. And there was a routine of folding papers. There are always the kind of things that you had to do. And then Saturday and Sundays were the morning paper, so you'd get up super early and you'd be delivering papers before dawn, and you'd end up at the Winchell's on the corner with all the other paper boys, and it was like a real network. So but that was that was the life, and all good. It was a lot of fun.
Which sounds like a community. You finally found a community after moving around all that.
That really was true. And it was also just fun because Freeman was of the same car mindset, and I thought that was kind of interesting when Freeman said the other day, he said, I just started drawing cars, was always drawing cars. And I think that for both of us, there was that kind of, I was very influenced by Road and Track magazine because that's what my dad had. And then, my parents' first new car and only new Porsche my dad ever bought was a 1964 356C. And so when we moved into that,
that was the end, right? That was the end of the 356.
Yeah, that was 65 was the last year of it, but the C was the end of the models. And so we arrived in the neighborhood with that car. So that was kind of cool having a sports car in the family.
And he mentioned he had already been living in Europe, so he'd seen those cars driving around, right? Oh, that's so cool.
And you gotta. I maybe am wrong in stating this, but I would say as a mindset, there wasn't that big a difference in the price of cars in that day.
So was it more what you wanted?
Well, yeah. So it was really out of choice, or whatever. I choose to commute in a sports car rather than a station wagon or whatever else. And,
so the difference was negligible.
Yeah, it wasn't like, whoa, look at him rolling in a 356, kind of thing. It was more of kind of that was an odd choice of doing it. And I don't really, because you weren't into the finance part of it at the day, but it wasn't a Ferrari, obviously, and so I just remember how that was just part of our family car, and it
wasn't even flashy. I mean,
no, and it wasn't something you put away and you drove it only on the weekends. That was my parents' everyday car for that with the 356. And then, as Freeman said, along came the 901, built in September of '64, 911 that my dad owned, chassis number 35. So the 35th 911. Ever produced, and it was just something that he bought used, and he didn't buy it because it was a 901. He probably bought it because it was the only thing he could afford. So it was the oldest 911, which was probably only 3 years old at that point, that you could buy. And so he's found that car, and it was Bali blue, and it was a neat car, and he started driving it, and that was our everyday car. So
can I ask a question there, because I don't know, but I've always been curious. Did the 901, you know the story of 901 and became the 911 because did the 901s actually have badging? Like, is there a 901 badge, or did it just say Porsche?
There were actually no badging for a while, and then there was the slanted 911 on there. And interestingly enough, my dad, he got backed into at a restaurant one night. I remember it was a really big deal, like we'd come out of the car, has been backed into. So he got backed into, and when they took the front bumper off, I remember, because it was kind of those days where you went everywhere with your dad or with your mom. You didn't really sit at home, especially being an only child. You got enough of that, so you went with your parents. And I just remember going to the body shop, and the body shop goes, "Oh, look at this, Bob. The front bumper is all filled with lead," and so there were these things that showed up from the factory, and that was to counter the weight of the engine. They added weight to the front bumper. Well, these were the kind of things that were.
You just absorbed all this random stuff.
Yeah, well, so and those were the kind of hints that this was a really early car, because it was literally like lead poured in there. So my dad just had these kind of things that came up on the car, and then I remember we went to Riverside.
Oh, so you didn't? It was just a used 911, early, but nobody
really. It was an early car, but he didn't really. I don't think ever equated this as chassis number 35. And then as time went on, we were at a Porsche Owners Club thing at Riverside, and my dad didn't race his car, but we went to like every kind of race thing we could do. And so we were at the Porsche Owners Club, and I remember my dad's was chassis 35, and I'm pretty sure there was somebody there, I'm probably wrong on this, but it seems to me it was chassis number 29. And I remember this was the first time in my head I got those numbers down, and I remember my dad said, that car's even older than our car, kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
maybe built the day before, 2 days before.
Yeah, so I remember kind of having that relative, landscape of Porsches that it was starting to be early. And then, like Freeman said, I consider my dad, contrary to the numbering system in our group, I consider my dad the first R group member.
Okay.
Because he literally took his 901, and as you would at those times, it was like, what looks old and dated on it? So, we should get alloy wheels, but we didn't get just regular alloy wheels. We were at Fossick Pollock getting the car service, and there were 4 911R wheels sitting in the corner there as a special, for sale. And my dad bought all 4 911R wheels, and then, he needed to.
The lightweight.
Lightweight, but they're like, they're probably almost $20,000 a set or something. Yeah. Way more. So, and then, and then, when he did get backed into it at the restaurant, he said, I'm going to put the thick strip on so it looks like a 911S. All the deco looks more like a 911S. And then, I have a chance to get a S kind of upgraded motor. I'm going to do an S. So, all these things built, but it was just kind of like that, but with no real regard to, Jesus, this is the Holy Grail. We got to keep it stock, So anyway, it was just, I do consider him the first R member.
Wow, that's so cool. Well, was that all? Well, okay, I see, because he's basically the influence also for Freeman. It's so wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
Heritage of thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
I didn't even think we'd get into this today, but It's so interesting. It's interesting to me, the dichotomy between the you know, keep it pristine, put it in the garage, don't drive it, keep the mileage down, to more of what we do, which is drive the piss out of them because that's how they were, you know, what they were built for. I kind of have a feeling, but where do you stand in all of that?
Well, it's just, you know, growing up that way, and I will tell you just real quick another funny story. Probably one of the most upset times I ever saw my dad, we would go at Christmas every year to downtown LA to pick up our Christmas tree out of the railroad cars that would come down from Washington and Seattle.
That's a
Washington and Oregon.
Tradition.
And it was really special because they would put the Christmas trees all in boxcars and then put the snow in around them. So you would get these trees arriving into LA
So cool.
With snowballs,
with snow and everything around them that had come down to be delivered. So
it was basically a fresh pack, right?
Yeah,
They were fresh packing the trees.
So every year that was our tradition to go to the train yard and pick up our Christmas tree. Well, we drove the 911, and my dad, being the
901,
he drove the 901, the 35th 911 belt, and so you know, no nothing, but my dad, working in the aviation business, he was working at McDonnell Douglas, and he was a mechanical engineer, but his specialty was in composites. So, you know, he always had something special in the composite world. So he had these straps that were literally like nylon straps, but they were like some space age material that he'd gotten as, you know, you could go to the surplus store at McDonnell Douglas and get all these kind of exotic materials that they just kind of throw away there. So
scraps.
He had these straps that had come from somewhere, so they were super strong. Well, we're driving home with the Christmas tree on the roof of the 911, and somehow the strap got wrapped around the wheel.
Oh my God!
And got caught on something, and all of a sudden we hear this huge noise and just you know, and literally the poor 911 had these like rope burns all the way around it from this from these straps
in the paintwork and everything.
And it didn't go all the way through the paintwork, but it, you know, it was really stressful for me. I remember how bad it was. You know, so much for the Christmas spirit, because, you know, it was like, you know, we'd had this great time in the train yard and a perfect tree on the roof, and it tore out the brake lines when this happened. And so I just remember, you know, and I also remember I'm in the back of the 911, you know.
A kid too.
Yeah, a kid, and I'm in the back, and I just remember I'm driving home as mad as possible with a Christmas tree on the top of the car that he hated at that point, and having to use the emergency brake all the way home to stop.
I was going to say, and a 901 with no brakes.
So anyway, the Zwart family, the early years. So that's
that
it.
is so great.
So to get back, get to the originality side of things. I mean, I think it's such an exciting time because, you know, suddenly barn finds are really important to us. The quest to go back originally is really a great one, I think, because it brings you closer to the brand. I mean, when you think of what's the opposite, you're like building something with aftermarket parts and making it faster and making it less original and all that stuff, or you're really going into what it had in the day. And then, so that brings you closer to the brand. It educates you about where it came from, where these parts were, and it networks you in a way with, you know, the whole thing. So I love the times we're in because it's going so heavily in both directions. But
that's fair.
I do like it.
That's fair. Yeah. It is going in both directions. It seems like well, whatever. Everything you said it all. I don't want to get too caught up. I want to talk about radical media for a second because you blew my mind the other day with something that's probably very obvious to most people, but it for some reason wasn't to me. When we were having a conversation the other day, radical came up. I don't remember how it came up. You had an office in Santa Monica. Blah blah blah. Yeah. You gave me the address. I said, well, wait, isn't that radical media? You helped found Radical Media, or you? I
wouldn't say I helped found Radical Media, but
you were there involved from the beginning.
From the very beginning, and you know, the very beginning was kind of an interesting evolution because, you know, I was a still photographer shooting heavily national advertising, shot all of BMW's advertising, all of Porsche's advertising, all of Mercedes kind of 190s, kind of the sportier classes of cars. And then, so heavily in the German side, but really kind of if there was a performance ad, I did a lot of them. So And
meaning action if they were shooting action.
Yeah,
okay.
action, and kind of, you know, the turbocharged era of kind of showing those things off. But
motion blur.
Yeah, but American Photographer did a story on me, and the American Photographer was kind of the magazine at the time for photography, and they called me the high performance photographer, and so they kind of got into how I shot and what my philosophies were in shooting high performance things. And certainly, you know, it was my high performance side of things went way beyond cars, where I was certified to fly backseat and fighter planes, so I was Martin Baker ejection seat certified, and I had, you know, I spent hours and hours in F-18s and all sorts of modern fighter planes photographing.
You must have some
that.
constitution, mister.
and you know, and if it was boats and Johnson outboards, and then, you know, Budweiser comes along, we're doing Miss Budweiser and all their high performance things with
I remember the jet boats and
unlimited
everything back in the day.
hydroplanes
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So I shot that, and then
The Spuds
you know,
McKenzie days.
Worked on cigarette accounts if they were performance-y. But Marlboro, I did all the motorsport things.
Oh,
and
right,
so,
of course.
So, you know, just a lot of that. So American Photographer did this story, and I, out of that story, really nothing happened other than production companies reached out to me about me directing, and I hadn't really considered it. I was like, I'm happy being a photographer. I love my, you know, infrastructure, and I love traveling the world with kind of a bag on your shoulder and a couple assistants. And, you know, why would I need a big giant film crew to do anything?
Did you feel it was right sized at the time?
Yeah, everything was good. And when I'd always be coming into a location that a film crew had just been in, or something was going on, and, you know, like you'd be in Zion shooting. I was shooting Mercedes brochures in Zion, and, you know, the park rangers go, oh, you know, we were lucky you can shoot here because the last film company came through and just destroyed this place. You know, you always hear on the heels of stories like that. So out of that, I got these offers to suddenly direct, and I think it was kind of a natural thing for me because I was shooting high performance action in its entirety. You know, if the car still had to drive to me, still had to jump over that jump and land and turn sharply around a corner. I just was only recording 125th of a second. So suddenly, you know, for me to go into film and film the whole scene and kind of learn to tell the story of that scene, it was somewhat natural because it was like I was still going through the same process in my head. I was just using a different camera and a much bigger infrastructure, you know.
Yeah.
So funny enough, I reached out to the only person I really knew in the film business, which had been a producer that worked with Amorati and Purist, which was one of my main BMW accounts, was the advertising agency for that. And so I reached out to him. It was Frank Sherma was his name, and is his name. And Frank, I just said, you know, I'm getting these offers to direct television commercials. And so we first talked about maybe just doing it on our own. And then I just looked I looked for some direction and what should I do? You know, which production company should I really consider? All that. And then all of a sudden I started hearing that one of the production companies I'd always heard good things about was looking for information on me and looking to open a West Coast office. And I thought, well, that's would be kind of an interesting thing to be the only director in a new office as opposed to joining a company that was already full of directors.
So much more attractive.
So I thought, you know, that's certainly
attractive.
for me. I wanted, you know, the attention and everything else to kind of be focused on your career
also
rather than trying to blend
the
in.
space to figure out what you're going to do in this job too.
Exactly. And so that came along, and I kept hearing about it, but I wasn't contacted directly by them. And then finally, I think I called the production company, which was Sandbank and Partners, Henry Sandbank, and I talked to the producer there. And as it turns out, he goes, "Well, I've just been trying to figure out who I can put you with as a producer on the West Coast." And small world, he says, "I think I figured out. It's a guy named Frank Sherma." And so all of a sudden, everything we've been talking about just came together, and we opened the office in the West Coast here. And then Henry Sandbank moved on. John Kamen was it was really the executive producer that I spoke with. He created his own company that spun off of that, and ultimately it became Radical Media. So it just was very quick. But I was the original director with it. Certainly the longest lasting one at this point.
What year was that when it was first started?
1988.
Holy smokes. I mean, they're just a powerhouse now, one of the biggest in the business.
Yeah, and it's just...
with offices all over the world, right?
Yeah, offices all over the world, and just a very forward-thinking production company, you know, has adapted well with the times, and I think has a great diversity in its talent, and kind of is involved in so many different things, and it's fun.
The coolness, the cool factor of the projects that are worked on is pretty big over there.
Yeah.
I think I told you that one of the jobs I did was I was a consultant on the Back to the Future stuff they did with the sneaker and the car and the mall. They reshot all the stuff, and Frank Marshall directed it and a whole bit. Totally fun, but not a small shoot. I mean, these aren't just little tiny commercials.
Big production.
Absolutely, it may as well have been an action film.
Yeah.
You don't do anything that's like, I'm going to take a picture of a bowl of apples.
Well, what's really you know, nice for me, just to kind of go on from there, is that you know, what I do really kind of feeds you on so many levels, because it's an action position, and I think that, you know, it's like a great relationship that you know, you always get back more from it than you give to it, and so that kind of situation constantly happens.
That's your attitude, by the way, that happens. That isn't just I mean,
but it's just,
I think you help make that happen.
But I think it's also kind of to be in awe of it all the time, never take it for granted, because it's so cool that, you know, what you get to do and get exposed to, and that has really kind of pushed my directorial shelf life, and then to combine it with racing, and, you know, people kind of ask, you know, well, are you a racing driver or are you a filmmaker or what? You know,
can you make that decision?
You can't. You know,
I mean, can you, Jeff Zwart, make that call?
I think I can look at the longest-lasting, best-paying career, but you can certainly put it down to that. You can do the
math on it, but what about you?
Yeah, for me, racing was always that kind of untangible goal, but the mentality of it was where I was from a kid, you know,
and I think carried that through everything.
Yeah, and being very, I think that by moving to different schools and different things, and kind of always having change, it forced you to be a little more competitive, you know, to kind of establish yourself immediately. And I mean, racing, it's competitive and establish yourself out front, you know.
Right, you have to do one thing and then everyone knows you.
Yeah, you have to really do it.
You don't get to know everyone for the first 2 laps. And then
right.
Yeah, so I think that racing mentality was always there, and then as I got to be involved with, and I think that what's really cool is that from my filmmaking side of things is that it's part of my story. And when you go in to do a project, because still most everything I do is high action, you go in and do a project and you go, well, I have come from really living it. You know, there's few things I haven't done in a car racing, you know, of pushing cars through Baja 1000 to driving through Siberia, racing through Siberia to Mongolia to
stopping a few abruptly.
Road racing, to climbing up Pikes Peak or whatever.
You have a unique skill set. So.
Well, but what it does is it influences me visually, because when I go look at we're going out location scouting. And I go out location scouting, and I look at a road.
That's multitasking, mister.
Yeah, but you're location scouting, and I look at a road, and I don't just look at what it looked like through the camera. I think about what it'd feel like to drive, and then I also think about what the dynamic of the car will be at the same time. So you can kind of say, well, no, that car would look awkward doing that, or it would look very settled and powerful to be in that position. So they really feed each other. And I would say that the racing philosophy of just the way you approach things and take your eyes wide open all the way through till comes race time or shoot day and focus it in. So
you have the ability to focus. You've always had that. I'm guessing the only child, spending time alone, doing all your projects.
Yeah, I think, and it's, it's really funny because the similarities when you break it down to racing at Pikes Peak, for instance, to a shoot day are crazy.
The parallels?
The parallels to it and how I approach it. And like I said, you are gathering as much information as possible and throughout the day, and you're trying things and doing all this. Yeah, but Pikes Peak is definitive. It's one run. You've got to get to the summit. The summit's 14,115 feet. you can hit rain, snow, hail, whatever, racing up it. And it's
you can hit asthma.
Definitive.
There's no air up there.
But you've got to get there, and you've got to go against the elements. And if you aren't focused enough, you're not going to get there. And in the same way, the definitive thing in a shoot day, the sun goes down. You can't bring it back up. You can't. You have
a certain amount of time.
Yeah, and you know, at the size of productions I work on, you don't come back tomorrow.
Right.
You know, you don't say, oops, I missed that. I got to come back tomorrow. No, it does not happen. So it's such a definitive there. And it's like what you train for, but the focus and you know, distractions. You can't chase things when it comes race day. You have to really be on your mark and focus that. And that's where kind of like, during a shoot day, you're constantly thinking about how many shots I have left to do, what's the best light for that, how do you build into that, and you just build in it, and you're there at the best light at the end, but you better be done.
Man, gosh. I think of the we just watched the Pikes Peak climb, the Hoonigan one with Ken Block. Yeah. And it was the show specifically, the Gymkhana Files, because I think I told you I was actually up to produce that. The first episode of that.
Yeah.
Drama, the visuals are absolutely stunning, and then we get to see your smiling face. We're like, yeah, I think we got it. You know, I wouldn't ask you to do it again.
You kept pointing out, like right over your tires were so like they're on the line, right? Totally, you're great, but like it's so tall and there's mountains.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Holy cow.
I say that if you make a mistake at Pikes Peak, you have time to think about what you did wrong before you hit it.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. It can be seconds, I would imagine. Have you ever had I don't even want to talk about it. Never mind. I'm sure.
Yes, I have. I can tell where you're going.
At Pikes Peak?
No. Well, interestingly, the first year I went, and this is something that, you know, I've raced there 16 years, and and I shouldn't say the first year, but the first year I raced with Porsche there. Okay. I'd raced there once before, and then my Porsche program came along in 1994, and I went there thinking I knew where I was when the very first day of practice, and that taught me something that 16 years later I still come to that corner and think about that day, you know, of when I thought I knew where I was. And that's one of the things, because I actually, you know, kind of coach in the rookies meetings, and I help new competitors and everything. And I say single-handedly, don't ever think you know where you are, you know, because that'll bite you. But it'll bite you. And I think, and I've never flown off the road as fast as I did that day, because I was dropped fully into fifth gear, foot down, on boost, 550 horsepower, and I thought the road opened up to go dead straight, and instead it went 90 degrees left, and I flew off the road. And fortunately I was in the lower section, but I went off in the trees, and everything was okay. And it was.
You're still here today.
Still here today, and we got the car back together and won open class that year. But
good
still,
grief.
It was. But it's just one of those things that you need that check, and fortunately I was able to come back from that check.
They say, one of the things I learned from that show as well, but there's so many corners, and the topography is so radical that there's a lot of corners that look the same. Right. So you tend to, I know where I am here, and then you just, if you're not present for even a second, and that's the focus, I guess you're talking about.
And especially in the dirt days, there were no guardrails, there was nothing there. And when you get above tree line happens around 12,000 feet. When you get above tree line, you're literally driving against the sky, so your traditional markers or anything are not there. So.
Well, even in the show, it's a little block
put the
of
rocks. Rocks together.
Something.
Yeah, totally. So, and I gotta say, since you brought up too, is that Ken Block is a real talent.
Yeah,
he really is
impressive.
Yeah, and I just, he was on my mountain essentially.
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
And I was directing him in Climbkhana, and it was just. He needs no warm-up. He'll literally be rally crossing some small, compact, high-horsepower rally car, and then we get him in a 1,400 horsepower all-wheel drive Mustang with, flames coming out of the front end. It just, the whole thing, it couldn't have been more contrasts of things he drives, but yet he just goes, boom, on the limit, goes and drives it to the edge. And, you know, for me, okay, we got it. We're walking away. You know, it was just a really great dynamic. And I just, you know, to observe him and to watch his videos and everything, but then to be standing there and asking him to do what I asked him to do in a car and him just take it right to the mark. That's impressive.
As a director, I have to assume you were happy with the piece.
Yeah, I was very happy. I was just
certainly that shot. My God.
Yes, yes. It, just all around. I think, you know, at this point, you know, you love to just, you want to do good work, but you love when you just have a great dynamic of working with the entire crew, and your star is really a star, and these kind of things. And Ken was really awesome, and the whole crew was. You know, it was one of the usual times where I didn't have my typical radical crew. I had the Hoonigan crew, and they really have a great group of shooters. And
awesome.
Enjoyed it. Yeah.
They know what they're doing too.
Yeah,
they're good drivers.
They really do.
Like they're always like doing really neat stuff that I know takes so much more understanding than it looks like. So, and it reminds me of you.
But they have fun too.
Yeah.
You know, I really do like that too. It's a really.
They don't strike me as taking anything too seriously.
They, you know what?
From
the whole
Ken to
thing,
Scotto to everybody right on down the line.
But yet they have to deliver.
Oh yeah.
You know, and you can never discount the fact that what they're doing is not risky. You know, and so
even doing donuts in the parking lot. Well, you
I
went over there. That's right.
I had to defend the honor of 914 owners around the world.
Oh my gosh, that's
smoked my tires a little bit.
I totally forgot about that. Gosh, I forgot about that.
That was actually I was very happy with that moment.
Well, you know, people watch the videos, and unless you're actually there, the space is not large.
Oh, it's really small.
It's kind of like this studio. I mean, that little parking lot is tiny, and it's half containers. You know what I mean?
And I genuinely think, I've never asked, but I genuinely think that Scotto didn't think I would really do not just a burnout maybe, but not do donuts. And so I was, you know, I was pretty. It was
the yellow
as
car
far as
you
my,
saw, the little yellow 914.
My driving career, that was one of my high moments.
Yeah.
Really? You lit it up.
Well, look at the audience. Look at the audience.
But did you see them?
Yeah. It was all fun. You know, anytime you can wow 20-something kids, it's good.
Oh my gosh, that's so great.
Oh my God.
We have another mutual friend in the birthday boy, Mr. Paul Kennel.
Yes.
Paul Kramer. He wanted to know if you would be interested in telling your Citroen story. Now, I don't know it. I don't know the story, but we just did a video with him on a Citroen yesterday, so it came up.
Oh, that's fine. I just saw Paul yesterday myself. So,
yeah, well, and then we'll get to the 111 because he sent me a picture of that car, and you got 111 on that thing too. It's crazy.
Well, the Citroen story is actually quite funny because, you know, most people go, well, I've got this Citroen SM, and they expect you to go, oh, that's pretty cool, you know. But I actually, it was very near and dear to my heart because, you know, I mean, this is a whole nother story, but, you know, basically, once you got done wanting to be a fireman and an astronaut, I got kind of serious and said, I'm going to be a veterinarian.
Right.
So basically, from age 14 on, you know, that was my goal, and high school was goal, and funny enough, it was a few years ago where somebody asked my parents how my veterinary career was going. you know, because it was just like one of those things where, you know, your parents, you know, everybody thought you were going to be a veterinarian.
For
you know,
6 years, that's all they talk about. You just assume.
Yeah. So part of my process in studies was I went over to Germany, and I lived in Germany and worked for a large animal veterinarian because my goal was to eventually get into veterinary school in Munich. So, I was trying to get into UC Davis, and I was still needing to complete my pre-veterinary programs and you know, my major to get there. But yet, I thought, well, I can go over to Europe, and it's actually a full program, as opposed to going to undergraduate school onto a veterinary program.
Okay.
So I went over to Germany to work for a large
one-stop shop, essentially.
Yeah, and they were also allowing in 19 or 20.
Get him young, man.
Yeah. No, they were allowing in 19 or 20 foreign students every year. So it was actually a fairly good, better odds, because it was actually harder to get into veterinary school than it was to get into medical school in California, because there's only one veterinary school and there's medical schools everywhere. So the ratio of applicants to spaces was very difficult. But anyway, I went over to Europe and lived in Germany. So I was working for a veterinarian over there. And the cool part was we went from farm to farm every day. And the cool part was is that we were in basically a Citroen SM. The veterinarian had a Citroen SM. And my very first day, I'm in this Citroen SM. He raises up the suspension. We turn off the highway. We're on a 2-track farm road. He's hauling ass. There's still snow on the ground. And I'm in a Maserati-powered Citroen SM. There's rattling bottles of insemination materials in the back. There's dry ice containers keeping everything cold. It's like there's every type of gadget to work on every large animal possible. It literally, and we'd open
it sounds like a Top Gear build to me, though, the way you're describing it.
Yeah, it only had 2 seats in it. The whole back was filled with stuff. And then, we would deliver calves and vaccinate pigs and, whatever. But everything was out of this Citroen SM. And I literally spent a year tearing around the roads. And it was funny because it was like the veterinarian kind of has like a free pass because he's a veterinarian.
Yeah.
And
I got to get to the horse. I got to get to the goat.
A big Bavarian veterinarian who wears lederhosen every single day and drives a French Maserati-powered Citroen, you're known. Like and every Monday we would do meat inspections, so we would inspect all the meat, and we'd always come away from there with this big slab of beef or something, and that's lunch today, and it was just like, it was pretty cool. So my biggest fear was that we were going to have an accident someday, and that this stuff that was behind me that we were just sending through tubes into cows was going to be everywhere. Anyway, that's my Citroen SM.
So is that your introduction to rally driving?
Yeah, it was. I had a lot of respect for him, so for sure. And it's kind of like it. Even today, when I'm location scouting, I say, well, rallying is just like high-speed location scouting. So it's all kind of the same. But I love the life there. There was a book out called All Creatures Great and Small by James Herriot. It was a really famous book at that time. And it was funny because I'd read that book, and it was a story of a veterinarian, I believe, in England, and he went to farm. And I was an Orange County, Southern California boy, and I got off a plane in Frankfurt and took a train to Munich and went door to door to veterinary hospitals trying to get a job.
Wow.
And about 3 months into it, working out in the country, I realized I'm living All Creatures Great and Small, this whole book I read. So it was a very cool experience.
You seem, a lot of your stories seem to either revolve around or end in serendipity of some sort. Does that make sense? Is that your life?
I'm very lucky.
Yeah,
I really am.
Do you consider it luck? That's sort of why I'm asking. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Well, at some point, you want to keep it as luck. You don't want to.
Why would you want the responsibility?
Yeah, you don't want to think that it's owed or anything in there. And I think that you have to get close to the door to be able to open it, So I try to be close to the door. So it's just
next time someone asks me, what's the best advice you ever got?
So that's if you could just be close, and that's the thing that so often it's just taking advantage of the moments, and that's what I like about the spontaneity of life and filmmaking is that, just because you need that background, if there's a rainbow and a thunderhead behind you, you turn around and shoot it. So be flexible enough in life to do that. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's
Good
so
lesson,
cool.
Sir.
I still have more stuff for me, too, but I've got a couple viewer questions here from some people that we know. Kevin Lynch would like to know, given your incredible history with the Porsche Mark, what's your most favorite Porsche experience, if such a thing can possibly be said?
The Porsche Experience Center being brand collection.
That worked out. See you Saturday.
Yeah, see you Saturday. No, and you think about it, it's like, so many things are a culmination of it.
And at least he did acknowledge that there may not be an answer to this.
I would say that there are two, when you look at my world with Porsche, it's really in 3 segments. It's my daily life, it's my racing life, and it's my business life as a common thread in terms of my office being a Cayenne, and my longest client has been Porsche. So I mean, I would have to say there's two of them really, but the one that probably is the most closest to me is just it's a life experience that Porsche provided for me. And it's kind of a long story, so I'll try to summarize it.
Sure.
But just
That
the
sounds
fact that,
interesting.
you know, it is a long story, but basically my dad made me.
Listen, you're not going to be cut off.
Yeah,
there will be no more.
But I don't want to bore anybody. But basically, all through Freeman Thomas days and everything, my father made me invest half the money that I made, no matter what it was, in the stock market. And so I invested this money, and I got $1 per paper per month, so it was like $35, $40 a month, and so I would take half that money and I invest in the stock market. He gave me my choice of stocks. So I was a kid.
You got to make. He dictated what was happening, but you made your own decisions.
So, but I like sports, so I liked AMF, and they made the basketballs and footballs and made all stuff. But they also had they had bowling, but they also had a military side. They did a lot of things and everything, but they really American Machine and Foundry. So I invested in that. I invested in Chrysler. I don't know why, but
wow.
I invested in Chrysler. I invested surprisingly in Northrop, I think, which ended up to be a client. But
and that was your dad's company, right?
No, my dad was at McDonnell Douglas,
but
they eventually did merge. But so the deal was I couldn't spend that money till after I got out of high school. So literally from about age 13, because I was early on in the working force, from about age 13. So I had a good 6 years, I think, of investments.
Saving and investing.
Yeah, and the things I invested in did really well. And when I graduated from high school, I wanted to buy a car because I never had a car. All through high school, I drove my parents' cars, which were not bad to drive.
Yeah,
but,
clearly.
But
911.
so I
35th 911 mate.
Yeah, so I decided that out of school, I really wanted to buy a car, and naturally, I wanted to buy a 911, but they were too expensive. But I think, when people talk about Porsche, what comes to mind first, I always say the sound. It's so unique, especially in those times. And the flat six is just a special sound. Well, I just so badly wanted a 6-cylinder 911. Well, I looked at things, and it was too expensive, or they were just too old and too bad a shape. But there was a 6-cylinder 914. And that 6-cylinder 914 was the 914-6. It was kind of a little bit of a ugly duckling in the time, and it was a little not selling real well.
People didn't know what to make of it, right?
Yeah, and it was just kind of
this or is it that?
It was a confusing car in the marketplace, but the people that had them, I just thought they were so cool. And there were a few racing that I just thought were the greatest. And then, so I looked around, and I found a low-mileage 914-6. And part of the reason why, even in 1973, there were still cars at the port, brand new cars not sold from 1970. So it was
oh my gosh,
it was just like
deals were being made.
Deals were made, and
wow.
and then the people that had them as used cars, they were not very valuable. So
yeah.
Anyway,
when a new one's so cheap.
So I bought this yellow 914-6, and so to fast forward, because there are a lot of things that happened along the way with that, but so in 1997. And this is after buying the car in 1973. In 1997, I entered an FIA marathon rally, which was Panama to Alaska, 10,000 miles, 25 days. And the car had to be 1972 or earlier. And I thought, well, 914-6 is perfect to run in it, but I wouldn't want to do it in my car because I wouldn't want to ruin it, because this could be 25 days running through Central America and all the way above the Arctic Circle. I thought, this isn't gonna, may not end well. But then I thought, well, if I do well, I'll want to keep the car that I did the race in, and I won't want my original car. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna do it in my car. So we built the car.
That's a nice 180 there. I love where you settled.
So we built the car completely to FIA spec and everything of 1970, and we entered the car, and 25 days later, we finished in Alaska, in Anchorage. But along the way, my dad was in the service vehicle chasing us. And to think that my dad was chasing this car that he had made me invest since age 13, and you know, kind of guided me of how to buy it when I got out of high school. This is the same car. And my dad, who had not really done any big life experiences of other than, you know, vacations in the summer and things, he was on a 25-day in the service vehicle, in the trenches every night, repairing, fixing with the mechanic and everything. And it just is such a special moment that for a father and son moment, for an emotional kind of tie to your youth, to your, you know, your later years, especially for my father. And
just to have that plot point in your memory.
And it's just something that he never will forget. It was just the greatest life adventure he was on. But it was all caused by this yellow car I bought out of high school. So that moment is certainly one of the most special car moments. And even to this day, because I certainly attribute my interest in cars heavily to my father, and to have had that influence that ultimately led to my entire career, you know, it's a very cool moment to have to look back on.
It's a great moment. It's a great story. I mean, you know, I've got my own father-son stuff, so that, you know, hits my heartstrings. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's very
good.
cool.
And
How old was he then?
Oh, let's see. Because it was funny. The mechanic he was with was only about 3 years younger than him, and I think they said that they were in their 60s. So
that's awesome that you gave him that experience.
Yeah,
so
no,
cool.
it was really good. And then, you know, certainly from my business world, of the work I've done with Porsche, you know, I've shot an awful lot of commercials, but the commercial, The Family Tree, which was the launch of the Panamera, you know, I think you kind of
Salt Flats one, or
whatever
it is.
It was out,
or faked at least.
Faked out on the desert, but shot at El Toro Marine Base. But, you know, to be in a helicopter and working, you know, we had over 40 cars. We had about 36 historically significant cars, and then the production cars that were there to support the Panamera. And we literally, like, I made like flip charts and would do like a football play charts of, you're going to split off here, you're going to split the choreography of all these cars forming the family tree. And you're in a helicopter and you've gone over all these moves with all your drivers. And we had as many as 25 cars at a time on the move, which means 25 people on walkie-talkies and all this. And you're in the helicopter and you give countdowns.
You're also in a moving space.
Yeah. And you give countdowns, and somebody knows that the 917 is going to split right on this countdown. The 908 is going to split left. The 2-liter RSR is going to go this. You know, it was like, you're up there looking at this happen below you, and it's like everything you knew about Porsche and Porsche Motorsport and racing and filmmaking and everything all in this one, and you're just like, it was so special.
It's everything at
once.
It
was so special.
Stars align.
And you know, at the same time, because it was Porsche, and virtually every cool person who'd given me a car to use in this, you were always
a lot of personal cars, of course,
scared to death you were going to damage something at the same time, and be always remembered as that guy. So didn't want to do that
JEFF
either.
ZWART guy.
Wow. Well, I just think of that. I hate to use the word iconic because people do that all the time, but I think of places where it's the opening to Grand Tour, when the Grand Tour came back. That to me smacked right out of your work.
Oh, they did. And you know, one of the greatest compliments I had for that is that I do. When I go to Germany and go to Weissach, you know, occasionally I get to go to the design studio and see friends that are still there, like Grant Larson. And I discovered one day, not too long ago, or I didn't discover it, it was told to me the other day that they use that film to introduce new products internally. And so
that's so cool,
because this is the DNA. I mean, the opening scene of that commercial is Jerry Seinfeld's 1949 Gmünd.
Right.
And you know, that little thing's just teetering
little
at
face.
you, and that face and that vehicle that it really says the beginnings, and then that family tree spans clear to the Panamera at that time. So they drop
Spaceship
new product.
comparison.
Yeah, they drop new product into it and just see if it feels right to that for the presentation. I thought, that's so cool. So, you know, here 10,
you created the lineage that they're using.
10 or 15 years later, they're still dropping new product into it. So I thought that was a really cool moment. It's nothing we'll ever see, but the fact that internally they use it that way.
It says to me that you can capture emotional through lines.
Yeah.
So that gives will let me finish that book that I'm reading, because I literally cry and bawl my eyes out every page. And I
The Art of Racing in the Rain.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, I guess
4.
I don't know how much we can talk about that because it's not out yet. But I would love to if you have any interest in speaking about experiences with this project.
Yeah, and, you know, it was funny. Same for me. I mean, 10 years ago the book came out. Garth Stein wrote the book, and it was just a book that every page I turned, my mind would go in two different directions. And one is I want to keep reading, and the other is, wow, where could I go visually with this? You know, it's just so cool because now that I've told my Citroen SM and veterinary story, this book is really a bit of my veterinary side and obviously my racing side. So it really struck me in many, many ways. And I love the communication through a dog, because if anybody asked me if I could be anything or have any skill in your life, you know, it would be to understand what a dog's thinking, especially the bigger breeds, because they're so deep, you know. You look at them and you go, they know everything, you know, and you know, I want to know what they're thinking about and looking at, and you know, that would just be such a cool skill. Well, the movie is told through the eyes of a dog, and so that perspective and what the dog sees and what the dog thinks about is kind of pulled back. You know, they pull back the curtain along the way of kind of what a dog would be viewing and seeing, and that perspective is really interesting to me. And then obviously the racing side of it, I got to use kind of my racing intuition. And, you know, I raced in ALMS for a couple races, and I've known IMSA for years, and so we teamed up with them to kind of provide the backdrop for racing in it. So the racing, for the most part, you know, obviously I recreated a number of things within it, but our basis of it was IMSA and sports car racing, and so it's pretty cool. And the film is directed by Simon Curtis, who did my week with Marilyn, and Simon was wonderful to work with, and everybody was just super supportive. And you know, obviously the main thing was Patrick Dempsey, who I've known for so many years through Porsche connections again and everything. Crazy? And Patrick and I have been, you know, friends for so many years, and he bought the rights to the book about 5 years ago, and tried to get it pushed through a number of studios, and Fox 2000 came along and backed it, and so that combination of working with Patrick and making sure that the racing side and the vision of that came through was just it was a great. You know,
you're the one who gets to do it.
Yeah,
to me, that's the coolest part.
There's moments where it just takes everything you know and you've lived in, and you translate it to something.
I was going to say, I certainly believe that there are certainly things in this world that every once in a while there's the right guy for the job, and this is one of those things where you are the right guy for the job. It just makes sense.
It was fun, and I loved working with the dog, and I loved being on set watching the dogs work. And so
this is a separate question. I was going to ask you, who is your best friend? I mean, I have a guess who you might say, but who is your best friend?
Just to put in the plug, though, the film will be out September 27th.
There we go.
So I can't say that. So
we all can't wait for it. And the book is fantastic.
The Art of Racing in the Rain is a wonderful book to read, easy book to read. So who is my best friend? Jeez. You know, that's there. I got to say that it's, you know, I couldn't even answer that.
I thought you would say Jezebel. I did. I really thought you would say Jezebel.
There's just so many people and so many influences, and obviously your own family and everything that kind of all adds up to, you know, you. And that's so good. But Jezebel and dogs in general, you know, I just like coming down to their level and enjoying them and being around them and watching them be a dog, not something at the end of a leash. So that's
its own entity.
Big
wow,
deal.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
We had a conversation when we were again at your shop, and we were talking. I feel it's the same way with old trees or anything else. They just you get a sense that they fucking understand everything way better than even we do.
No, I really do, and you know, I don't know why, but we've just always had really great dogs. You know,
you don't know why?
No, but we've had different breeds and different things, and we've just.
I think
tried
you guys
everything.
are communicators. I think you're open to.
Jeff's the most modest human.
Agreed. Okay, that's what's going on.
Okay.
But it's been interesting with the different breeds, and we had a Queensland Blue Heeler, you know, and I used to joke that dog did our taxes. You know? it was, you know, such an intelligent dog, and that dog, my father, who's in assisted living, and when we bring him home, bring him to our house and bring him in the wheelchair and set him down, that dog would come over and smell his ears and look at him and just what is going on with this guy today, and you know, and you just know it's.
But they know
everything.
Yeah.
So, and that's a beautiful thing about the movie too.
I appreciate that you believe that stuff. I do too.
Oh, I 100% believe it.
And there's a lot of stories coming out now too, with that you can smell different things and that certain animals, and this is all sort of hitting the news now. I believe in all of it. Mr. Ray Shaffer from Porsche would like to know.
I can only imagine.
This is good.
Our friend Ray.
What's your favorite chair?
As a filmmaker, is there a story out there that has not yet been told? If so, what is that story, and would you like a shot at it?
Wow. That's complicated. Well, you know, it's funny because, you know, in my 30-second world of advertising, it's so funny because, you know, I've been shooting commercials for so long. It's always fun to see what the agencies come up with to tell the stories, and you know, sometimes they're genuinely fresh ways to look at it, and it's almost a reactionary time where things come in, and as soon as you see it and you're motivated by the core of it, then your mind takes it someplace visually, and you try to make it unique in that. And I think that's you know, it's like if you knew what it was, you'd be trying to do it. But
maybe a year ago, this would have been the art of racing in the rain. Maybe would have been the answer to that.
I think, you know, like I've been so fortunate to kind of given these projects that are all performance based, but sometimes very complex to figure out. Like we did the world's fastest zoetrope, where we put panels of all of the game. This was for Forza, and we built panels next to the side of the racetrack and drove past them and created the animation. As we drove past it.
That's how you got the ideas for like what it looks
well, they
like
came to us wanting to create a zoetrope and drive past something and do this. So we created this whole thing at Barber Motorsport, and it was unbelievable. Like we set up almost 700 panels next to the track.
Oh my
and
God.
The bigger
just along the wall?
The bigger the panel. No, they were each on individual stands with two sandbags on each stand. And
that's you know me. I'm going to the infrastructure.
They were printed on aluminum sheets so that they wouldn't be affected by the sun or the weather or anything
and stuff,
and everything. And then each panel had to be in sequence to the animation. So because we lifted each off the cell of the film for the game itself, and to know by math that we needed to pass this size of panel, 30 of them per second, dictated that speed. And we had speeds from 70 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour, and 120 miles an hour.
Oh, right, because each one's a frame
in
your
so
video.
The bigger the panel, the faster we had to go. And the modern technology today of shooting the way we do, we have a live feed watching. It's not like you sent the film out and see if it worked, you know, anymore.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And I'm in a McLaren with Tanner Faust, and we are doing, you know, 110 miles an hour, 115 miles an hour, and the panels, they're going like this.
As you pass,
and we hit 120, and all of a sudden that just and it locks in. And I mean, look at still to this day.
Unbelievable. And you find that. You have to find it.
Yeah. But it was the math.
Right.
If we drove at 120 miles an hour, it would be locked off and did it. And then
but it sounds like a Mythbusters episode, the way you have to science it.
So we created this all around the Barber Motorsport track and filmed from a McLaren and did it. So these kind of, you know, you never know where these things are going to take you. And to Ray's question, I think, you know, a week before that, I didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
And that's a really fun thing. And I think that, you know, my side of things is probably more the performance than less the emotional side. And I think that as time goes on, I really appreciated the fact to really work on something that was so emotional as The Art of Racing in the Rain, and see that work. And even for me, shooting some of the scenes that I shot with the dog, they're the most beautiful scenes I've ever shot.
I was going to ask about that, because you're Mr. Action, and now you're doing Mr. Heart.
Yeah,
but I was
we were still in action, but I could just see, just shooting it, I was going, wow, this is really special. And what's fun is, you know, in that project, which, you know, doesn't happen in 2 or 3 days like a commercial, it happens month after month. You really immerse yourself in the story. And Simon Curtis, the director, you know, he's really immersed in it. But I need to know the story to shoot my parts, because I shot basically everything automotive, everything high action, and I shot a few scenes with the dogs and all those things. But it just was so fun to be immersed in an emotional story that you were translating the storytelling pieces that revolved around race cars. You know, because you couldn't fully step into the race car thing. You still needed to draw to the emotional. So.
I can't wait to see the movie.
I can't wait to see what you do with it.
This is from Nutshell. How many times did you yell at Freeman to keep his bike away from your 914?
I don't recall ever yelling at Freeman. I really enjoyed the Freeman stories the other day, and you know, it's funny because think of this. And Freeman didn't really put Freeman is a visionary. You know, he really, you know, he talks with this pencil. And, you know, we've all heard the stories, but he literally, and he talked about the TT, but literally my wife and I were out to lunch with them in Ingolstadt, and he said, oh, I'm working on a little something at home, you know, and he just sketched the TT. And I wished to this day I'd hung on to that thing. But that's kind of, you know, it's almost like he doesn't want to explain it, he just wants to show you, you know, and he can almost fluently do that. But the funny thing is think of these 2 kids that were riding around the neighborhood, chasing around to get to the garage doors before they shut when somebody would come home.
In there,
And then we go away from each other, and I'm on a path to be a veterinarian, and he's on the path in the military.
Air Force. That's right.
So we're gone. You know, we're not in contact. This isn't social media days or anything. We're gone. We're never going to see each other again.
Or not.
And then I independently applied to Art Center because I loved photography. Photography was the only reason for photography was for me to be around cars. That was my motivation.
Really?
Yeah, it was my motivation. I mean, photography was fun, and my dad took pictures, and I always kind of took pictures along the way, but I just wanted to be around cars. So that was my method, to be around cars. So I end up at Art Center, College of Design, and I'm learning the craft of photography because I didn't know any other way to learn it. So I'm there, and so then...
Well, how did you get in? I asked him the same question. How did you get into art?
I actually did some photography classes and everything, and I actually, while I was working for the veterinarian, I started traveling around Europe,
so you had a portfolio
so I had a portfolio to get in, but it was a very difficult, Freeman said that, it was a very difficult school to get into.
Sure.
I mean, I started with 62 kids in my class, and we graduated with 19.
Jeez.
So it was a tough one. So, but Freeman, but then to think these 2 kids are ridden around town on a bicycle and everything, Freeman ends up at Art Center to design cars. And while I was, and we didn't really make any connection while we were in Art Center because I was basically done with Art Center when he was starting. But the funny part is that, you know, when you're in Art Center and you're a photographer, everybody in my class wanted to shoot girls or tabletop or landscapes. I wanted to shoot cars. I was the only guy shooting cars in my class. So
your work stands out, I'm guessing.
So it work stood out, but all my buddies were in transportation design.
Got to meet a totally different group of people.
They were one floor away from us, and so I was like always interested in what they were doing. They were always interested in what I was doing, and so then somehow we get connected again, Freeman and I actually would have to ask Freeman how that happened. So and Freeman's first job out of Art Center was at Porsche.
Right.
My first job out of one of my early jobs out at Art Center was to work at Road and Track magazine. And honestly, going into the first semester of Art Center, my highest aspiration was to shoot something for Road and Track someday. That was just what I'd like to do. Yeah. And so I ended up shooting probably 30 covers or so of Road and Track and things. But my common thread, because of my interest, was always to every Porsche story. Hey, put me in, every Porsche. So I saw every apartment Freeman and Renee lived in Weissach, in Ingolstadt. I mean, he literally lived in like 3 different apartments and outside of Weissach at different times. And we were always in these little German upstairs things with the walls all slanted in on you and everything. And I just remember it's just so humble. And yet both of us were doing something that was like just the coolest thing. He was working on a 959. Yeah. And I was over there to shoot a 959 driving 200 miles an hour on the Autobahn for a Road and Track cover story.
And you're how old?
20s,
I'm assuming. Holy smokes.
But here he is working on it. Here I am photographing it for Road and Track. And, I literally like, what'd you do today? And we'd sit around in this little apartment and talk, and like we're the last 2 Americans on Earth. So
That's the best.
So that kind of stuff is magical. So in other words, I don't recall ever yelling at him.
That was cute. I think he mentioned something about him still having a bike when you had a license or something like that. I am curious what you do for fun. Is there anything that is unrelated to your interest that we all know about that you do for relaxation or fun?
It's my life is so it's just truly a blessing, or I don't know what. It just getting to travel.
Yeah.
Like the 2 most unintimidating things in my life are a car and travel. I would get on a plane tomorrow. I would fly to any city in the world and get off the plane and work with public transportation and get myself to a hotel and figure out the money and do all that stuff. It just is like, if it wasn't for visas, I could do it anywhere, Yeah. It just is, there's no intimidation to it.
That's wonderful.
I can get off and do it. So that part.
The world's a small place for you.
But that's constantly my life too. I am always traveling and going places. So you kind of, when you're done with that, what do you do? And then the other side of it is the car is an enabler for me. I mean, it's my office. It's my high-speed camera car on a shoot.
Social life.
It's what takes me to work daily. And then it's my passion of experiencing different eras of Porsche and sharing it with people at events, and getting in something from 1949 and driving it on a freeway. It just is like, there are just moments where life completely slows down by the apparatus you sat in, and that is such a special thing. So when it comes time to what do you want to do on your vacation, I will say that if it was just me, which would be a selfish answer, I would say I would just go to the Frankfurt airport and I'd go rent some sort of BMW or something. And I honestly believe, I've done it enough, it doesn't matter. And I would just go to Nürburgring and I'd stay at the piston class and stay right in the middle of the track and have my steak on the rock every night of cooked on the hot rock and just do laps.
Really?
And do it by myself. Is that
your meditation?
Don't need anything. It just would be so fun because no matter what car you have at Nürburgring when you go out on the public hours, you're trying to beat the guy ahead of you and watch out for the guy coming up fast behind, and then they go by you and you just marvel, oh, that was really cool. It was like a GT3 RS with so and so and all this stuff, and I can't believe that Ferrari was chasing them, and then you all of a sudden get somebody in your sights and you're in a Volvo station wagon and you just put your head down and go, I'm gonna get this guy, and he's gonna remember it.
Yep.
So that's my own personal world, but beyond that, we've kind of fallen into a mode the last few years, which is fairly well documented now, but a canoe on the roof of an old Porsche and a big furry dog behind the seat, and my wife and I. And again, it's just not intimidating. And if there's a lake off the left side of us, we're going to pull over, park the car, not going to worry about it disappearing or anything, throw the canoe off, put it in the lake, and we're just going to go paddle around, and with this big 95-pound dog up front. And it's just fun. And you just look at that dog, how out of place it is that this Bernese mountain dog made to pull milk carts in Switzerland finds itself in the front of a canoe, carbon fiber canoe, cruising across a lake. And you just look at how it's all so wrong yet so right. You know, I got there in we all think we need 200, 300 horsepower these days. I got there in 60 horsepower with a 16-foot canoe on the roof, you know, and we have the bags that fit in that car, which are nothing. And so that whole side of it, where when life can really slow down, be unusually non-complex, you know, compared to the complexity of daily working and everything, it's just really nice. And it's funny, it's all you know, you're almost having to pedal that car, you know, it's so slow. Yeah, but and it's got 16-inch bias belt tires, you know, they're literally 3 inches wide on each side touching the ground. And that's it. And you know you're going to move forward. You know that dog is just peace and comfort, and yet game for anything at any moment. And we're just here for the ride of whatever it happens there. So, and that's a nice moment.
Sounds like Jeff Zwart's just always near that door.
It sounds like a great day.
Just be near the door.
Yeah.
So
great advice.
No, but that side of things, I think when you can kind of strip away the complexities and do something like that, you know, as much as we'd like to, you know, you think we really live in a motorized world, you know, to actually hand paddle a canoe across a lake or out in the ocean or whatever. It's just kind of fun. And it's also one of those things
analog.
It's like not like a bicycle or something. We all can kind of ride along in it, and that's a nice aspect too. So.
Look at you, man. Who knew?
You know, I was thinking, you guys are onto something here too. There's another show you could do.
Okay.
Yeah, there's another show you could do. You might have to change seats.
I'm ready for that.
But you know, Nicole is so hyper aware of her being, and
you're very astute yourself.
She describes it in a very comforting way that breaks it down without a lot of intimidation in the description. That I was thinking, you know, it's kind of like if you've taken what you have and break it down and kind of explore it within your own head, but share it, that if you were in a position where somebody was invited in here dealing with whatever they're dealing with, and show them that you can self-assess yourself and try to understand what's going on inside. Because let's face it, we know ourselves the best. And when you're faced with something where you really have to dig deep to do that, to be able to share that and break it down so it's very, people in here would realize it's something that I can share, and because you do. And then when you look at the other side of it, people outside will look at it and say, well, geez, you know, I should think about myself. I should think about what's good going on, what's bad going on. You know, how does this go? And I mean, it's kind of a nice way of sharing. And I just find that the way you have carried yourself and verbalized it is something that it goes far beyond the show. So it's good.
Thanks.
I think it's really important that she hear that, especially from someone like you, Jeff Zwarт.
I will hold on to that.
And you might have changed seats, you know?
Well, yeah. We'll get there. I know he would love it.
That's good.
This originally was supposed to be her podcast.
Yeah. Oh, really?
That's the truth of it.
Oh, wow.
Before we got to the whole J. Ryan Letterman, the bottom of all that, this was supposed to be, let's give Mrs. Ryan a voice and her whole thing back. So I think this is all the process that will lead to her own thing. I just don't know what that is yet, and you seem to have a bunch of different ways you could go, and I think you're going to go to all of them. That's my feeling.
Yeah.
How about you?
I have so many thoughts, and I could speculate immensely. I think right now, this is your spot. I know I'm going to do something, but I need to finish my memoir, I think, first, so that it launch pads the rest of it. Because I think that what you're saying is so important in what I want to do, but like no one has a basis for me other than my affiliation with other people's stories, and I don't want to tell theirs. So
no, but there's a really great sharing and kind of feeling that it's because so many people are facing challenges, but they hold it inside, you know, and it's just it's a very comfortable way to not just make yourself feel better, but to give information to people to have them realize, hey, I can do that too. So
cool of you.
Thanks.
Gosh, that would be a nice time to end, but I can't not ask about Luftgekuhlt while you're here. Luftgekult's coming up. Everybody's talking about it. I know you probably can't say too much, other than obviously you're here today to release the location. I'm just kidding. That's not true. But is there anything you can tell us? The only picture I've seen, even teasing it, is of course of your 914.
You know,
it's coming up.
It's coming up. It'll be, you know, it's May 11th. And, you know, first of all, you know, Patrick and Howie kind of came up with this idea. And Patrick's really kind of led the thought process here. And I've always kind of, it's just like the commercial world. You know, they threw out a good concept. And I took that concept and I just, you know, I want to do something with that. So behind the scenes, you know, I've always kind of answered the calls from Patrick, and it's just been fun to see it evolve. But you know, I've gotten more involved in it as time goes, and I think that the thing is we've tried not to repeat locations, and the scaling of it keeps getting bigger and bigger, and we want to try to be all inclusive. But you know, the hard part these days is that, you know, it's a real event, and it falls under safety standards and fire standards and kind of all these things. So we'd love to just open the gates and let people come in. And so now we have to be, you know, somewhat, we have to be diligent to everything that is.
Everything has to be done the right way.
Yeah. So that part makes it difficult at times. And I'll tell you, the next event that's coming up is going to be, you know, you never know, but we learned a lot last year. Last year we did the event at Ganal Lumber. Ganal was an incredible partner for us and just opened up the doors on this incredible space that I had so much fun in staging the cars and setting things. It was just so fun. And it's kind of like, you know, on paper, we're going to go to a lumber yard. And
there was nothing off limits, though. There was nothing off limits. It was
so fun. And I mean, they were the dream partners, and everybody has been to this point, you know, each of the places we've gone. So, it just is one of those things where you have to step up. And last year, we kind of, after we finished that, we ended up with 2 more events. Like literally, I mean, and I didn't even know about them really. And suddenly we went to England. We went to Porsche Heritage for an event in England. And then like just 2 months later, we were in Germany and Munich and had an event there. And so
the photos of both of those were spectacular as well.
And I kind of got in a zone, and all of us got in a zone of, this is so cool, the visuals that can come out of it and everything. And I think it just helped define what this can be. And those 2 events, but doing all 3 last year, I think we learned a lot of everything. And
being able to take the show on the road is always good when you have a home base somewhere, because you get to try out all the shit that you wouldn't necessarily do at the home base.
And the support and the people that turn up is just so much fun. You know, like being in Europe and having an entire different pool of cars to deal with.
That must be nice.
It was so, you know, for me, it was just like motivational to, oh man, there's just so many cool things to take care of here. And you know, Patrick and Howie have been so great in the process, and it's a combination of everything that makes it a really fun evolution to be a part of.
Right.
And it's not defined itself really yet in a solid way. It's defined, meaning that I like that people can stay on their heels.
Oh, I see.
Rather than on their toes.
Yes, I see.
So, and I like the fact that, you know, nobody really knows, what the next location is or what the featured mark will be or how these things will be. So,
right.
Not featured mark, but featured storyline in it. So it's just a fun project, but yet the turnout and the support of everybody is wonderful. And obviously we wouldn't be here without that, but it's really touched people in a different way that a car show has traditionally. So
for me, it went from a word that nobody could pronounce to a word that everyone knows.
Yes, yeah.
To me,
Still
that's
can't pronounce
accomplished.
it, but they can.
Yeah, but most people get something out.
No, and that was what it was for me. And I mean, obviously, with my German background, I knew, knew what all that meant. But it really was a word that captivated me. The moment that Patrick Long called me and said, I've got this idea of gathering, and we're thinking we're going to call it Luftgekuhlt. It was like, oh, that's too good,
Yeah.
And I'm in the world of advertising. I'm filming commercials all over the world. I'm taking people's ideas and trying to make the best of it. We're selling incredible cars at times, and we're selling cars that are hard to make look great, But the goal is always to elevate and bring things forward. And I love that challenge. I really do. But this was one of those things that as soon as you heard it, it's like, we can do so much of it. It just captivated me. And not many things come along that kind of just make me stop everything and think about what it could be. And The Art of Racing in the Rain, the book, these moments in life you realize don't come along that often. And so, for me, I just wanted to be involved in some way because I was just so motivated by the name alone.
What does it mean?
So it means air-cooled.
It does. That's
air-cooled in German. So, and it just is, and Luft is the air part. So, and so it's just, I love when your mind runs with something, and I think as a creative person, that gets you going in life, and that's what I love about racing at Pikes Peak. You don't know what's happening in the next 12.5 miles. You got to make it up as you go.
Know better than anyone else in the world, and you have no idea.
Yeah, well, you're standing at Pikes Peak. You're sitting at the starting line, and you see the mountain. If in the very first left-hand turn, as you leave the line at Pikes Peak to drive 12.5 miles, you're facing the mountain. The summit is right there in your view as you turn left. It's really the only place you can see the whole mountain. It happens in the very first left-hand turn. And to think that you are
any other time you're too close or you're on the mountain.
Or
right,
it's something obscuring it or whatever. You come around the corner. You're 12.5 miles from that point to the top, and you're going to try to do it in under 10 minutes. And yet the top of the mountain's completely shrouded in clouds.
Yeah.
And you leave the line going,
this is the one, I'm going to do it. This is the one, I'm committed.
So that's creativity. It's creativity in the motorsport world, and I love it. And the one thing I've really enjoyed about working with Patrick too, is that we, like I said at the beginning, my mindset is being a racer. My job is, directing television commercials. And so here I am working with a real racer, Patrick Long is the best out there. But we're taking our combined skills and focus to produce a show, but yet we have the racer mentality.
Yeah.
And so it's just a really fun dynamic. And I really have enjoyed that part, because you usually just meet racers to be racers, getting to know them and having that racing philosophy applied to what we're doing, with Luftgekuhlt. That's pretty cool.
You guys speak the same overlapping language. That's so rare. So kudos. I love what you guys do with it. It's so neat. I can't wait for this one.
Been a lot of fun. And I got to tell you, the turnout and the feedback, and, we're in the car submissions right now, and, tickets go on sale on Saturday. It's just, the support and excitement and everything is so fun to see. And also at the same time, you're like, got to deliver now.
Pressure's on.
There's a few expectations, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Jeff Zwart, this has been without a doubt our longest episode, because I didn't even get to everything on the card. I hope that we'll have many conversations throughout the future years. It's been an absolute delight. I hope that you've enjoyed this experience.
Well, no, I've definitely enjoyed it. I know it's been a long time coming, but no, definitely fun to be here and really see the insides of this and to share this with you guys. You guys are just super people. So thank you.
It means the world. It means the world.
Means
Thank you so much.
everything, Jeff Zwart. Thank you.
Mrs. Ryan.
Yeah.
First of all, I love you. But let's get to tomorrow. Today's Thursday.
Yeah.
Ooh, the week flew by. Tomorrow is Breakfast Club, Friday Breakfast Club up at Newcomb's Ranch. They open at 9. We get there around then. Alternate routes are open. The slide is still
there.
Whatever reason, the crest is still closed.
Feel
but you
free
can
to
go
Google.
up there. Very easy. Yeah, use Google. Follow the signs. If you can find it, you're an adult.
Basics.
That's it, though. And then have a great weekend. There's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
We should talk about this. PEC morning drive,
Morning
early
shift.
shift. Morning shift.
Morning
God
shift.
damn, it's written right there. Morning shift at the PEC LA. I'm sure you'll be there. I know
I will
Nick
be
Hunziker
there.
will be there.
And Jezebel will be there.
Oh,
Cool.
good.
Awesome.
The dog. Oh, I love that dog.
We will be there as well. And then right after that is open house at Hunziker's, too. I don't know if you're
Yes.
going to that as
Yeah.
well. So that he's calling
At
the late
Saturday,
shift.
yeah.
Also on Saturday.
Hilarious.
That's it, Mrs. Ryan. I love you so much.
you too.
Jeff Zwart, we love you so
Love
much.
you so
Thanks,
much,
you guys.
dude.
We love
Thank you.
everybody at home. Please love one another and have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
All right. Easy.
That was awesome.
Move on. Whoa. Seriously. Wow.
Yeah, you're not boring.
All right.